Part 4 of Tabitha Turtle, the story I wrote to help me deal with my grief and loss. Little Bear would get Tabitha laughing and giggling, and during those times, Tabitha forgot her vulnerability, her shame, and her ugly features. For a moment, she just enjoyed the presence of her friends. And finally, the day came when Sister Bear told Tabitha they would be at the lion's den by nightfall. Tabitha was so excited, until she saw the look on Sister Bear's face. She quickly asked her why she looked so concerned. Sister Bear told her that before she got to the lion's den, they would need to pass through the stream that separated them from the king. Tabitha, remembering the roar of the stream back by her rock, quickly began to tremble. But she was determined not to go back. She asked Sister Bear and Little Bear to hold on to her hands. She was sure she would be able to forge through the stream with their help. Bears, pleased with Tabitha's decision, headed off towards the stream, inviting all of her new friends to come alongside and help her cross over to the land of the king. As they approached the water, Tabitha's trembling increased. She held onto Sister Bear's paw and whispered in her ear, "You won't let anything eat me, will you?" Sister Bear said she was positive nothing would stop her from making it through the stream. She was in good hands. The water temperature was cold as it swirled around her small body. Tabitha, clinging to the paws of her new friends and fully trusting them with her life, was unaware of the fact that all the mud and dirt the years had caked on were slowly being washed away. When they reached the other side, Tabitha's heart beat with expectancy. She had made it all the way across the stream, and now she would be able to see the lion. She was so overjoyed she didn't even realize that her little body had been washed clean. The dirt and stains of her earlier years had all been washed away. As the others crowded around her, she looked down and noticed her remarkably clean hands and feet. In fact, her entire being seemed transformed. She was still missing her shell, but she had learned to trust her newfound friends, and they had protected her when she couldn't protect herself. And as they all scrambled up the banks to finish the last leg of the journey, Tabitha's heart swelled with thanks for all her friends and all that they had done for her. Each one of them had contributed to the safety of her journey. She was grateful to Sister Bear, who had first encouraged her out of the hiding place in the rock. She was grateful for Little Bear and the joy she brought with her everywhere she went, even when she was covered in mud from the river. She was grateful for the companionship of the other animals, the monkeys for taking the time to escort her on her journey, the frogs for the encouragement they gave her, constantly telling her she would make it. She thanked the meerkats for their unceasing vigilance throughout her journey. Her heart was nearly bursting with this strange emotion she wasn't used to. Was this what love was really all about? Just as the tears began to flow down her face, she lifted her head and her eyes met his. The lion was standing there in front of her, ready to greet her. He had come to meet her, but she certainly didn't feel she deserved it. Even so, there he was. She quivered a little as she took a few steps towards him, half expecting to be told to go away. When the lion spoke her name with such gentleness and compassion, her fear melted away. There was such love in his voice that she realized he was not going to send her away. He was welcoming her into his kingdom. Tabitha opened her eyes, and through her tears, she looked up once again into the face of her king. He was more wonderful than she could have ever imagined, and he wanted her. She knelt on the ground before him and spoke the only words that would come to her mind. "Thank you," she said, as a torrent of tears spilled over her cheeks and onto the lion's paws. They remained like that for a long time, the lion comforting her as she spilled all the pain of her life into his paws. The tears flowed unrestrained from her eyes. She released all the hurt and all the pain of her pathetic existence. The lion waited patiently until every last tear was shed. Once she stopped crying, she looked up at the lion again and saw a great big smile on his face. She followed his gaze, and in his paw, where moments before had been her tears, now lay an array of sparkling jewels. Where had they come from, and what were they for, she wondered. But before she even had a chance to ask him, the lion began speaking directly into her heart. He spoke the words she had always longed to hear. He told her she belonged to him now. She was his adopted child and forever had a place in his kingdom. Then she stared in disbelief as he lifted high the beautiful display of jewels shimmering with every color of the rainbow. She saw such rich, deep colors, more beautiful than anything she had ever seen before, and as he lifted it high above her head and the sun's rays reflected off the jewels, and it sparkled, giving off the most dazzling spectacle of lights. Much to Tabitha's surprise, the lion leaned over and placed this beautiful crown of jewels on her back. He told Tabitha that he had captured each and every one of her tears and that they had been transformed into this new shell just for her. Tabitha was amazed at first and wondered how this could be. The lion, knowing her thoughts, began to reveal the truth to her. He told her that her voice had been restored when she'd taken the risk to inquire about him from Sister Bear. When she had left the shelter of the rock of the companionship of the Bear sisters, her trust was reestablished. As he continued to speak, a new set of tears flowed from Tabitha's eyes. She was realizing that each and every portion of her protection that had been stolen from her, the lion was replacing. He went on to say that when she ventured away from Sister Bear and began speaking to the others, she reclaimed her self-esteem. As she spent time with the animals, she acquired love and acceptance. He reminded her of the boundaries she had learned from her new friends and the value they had placed on her. Lastly, he shared with Tabitha that when she chose to leave all behind to find him, and she walked through the water, she had been washed clean. He was able to give her back her purity and her innocence. Tabitha was so grateful to the lion for giving her back her life that she sat at his feet and cried tears of joy. The next day, however, she was up and running about, showing all of her friends the beautiful new shell that he had bestowed upon her. She found each one and thanked them for their gift of protection and friendship on this road they'd traveled with her. She was so grateful for them. No longer was she impeded by the effects of what had been done to her. Tabitha was now free. Her shell, which was quite different from all the other turtles in the forest, would be a constant reminder to Tabitha that it was the lion who had set her free from her prison. It was he who had made it possible for her to dance. She may have lost all those beginning years, but she would make the most of those that remained. Somehow, she knew that they would be richer and more productive years for her because of where she had come from. She would not take one moment for granted. She would spend the rest of her life telling her remarkable story. And whenever any of the woodland creatures would ask her about her strange and unique shell, she would sit them down and tell them about the wonderful love she had learned on her journey to the lion. Thank you for listening to my story.